I realized, although I had a great life, I wasn't living it the way I wanted to live it. Like I didn't have a lot of time freedoms. I wanted to be flexible in my time. I wanted to have riches, but time riches and energy riches and financial riches. I wanted to show my children the world, and I started Googling passive income.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It. And my name is Marta Selzlak. I'm your host. And my episodes launch once a month. And I interview women who have had success in business or their personal life. So I am very excited to have a guest with us today. Her name is Deborah Razo. And she is a real estate investor, and she is also the founder of the Women's Real Estate Network. And I'm very excited to have you on the show, Deborah, today. I'm very excited to dive into your background and some of the successes you've had. So why don't we dive right into it and start out with just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you've been.
Sure. Well, thank you, Marta, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, I, you know, I where did I start? That's a long story, but I'll just tell you about my business and then where my heart's taken me since, right? I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, but everything changed about 13 years ago. I don't know about you, but I think there's a lot of people out here that have had the opportunity to start over. I had that opportunity about 13 years ago. For some people, it's a car accident or the death of a loved one or divorce, But for me, it was a car accident. And I was driving with a friend of mine, and the car got a flat tire and flipped. And I ended up with a broken neck. It crazy how things happened. And it took me about a year to heal. And during that year, I just had a lot of time to think, and think about life and think about how short it is and what I valued. And I realized, although I had a great life, I wasn't living it the way I wanted to live it. Like I didn't have a lot of time freedoms. I wanted to be flexible in my time. I wanted to have riches, but time riches and energy riches and financial riches. I wanted to show my children the world, and I started Googling passive income at the end of that 1 year journey.
Quick question. How did you even know to type in passive income?
Yeah, I read the little purple book and I started Googling passive income. And there's a lot of things that come up. There's royalties and real estate and real estate and real estate. And I thought, I need to get me some. So I didn't really have any money. I had worked in a year, and I borrowed some money from my brother, and I actually did my first flip, which is not passive, by the way. It's not passive at all.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And but I made a nice chunk of money. And so with that money, I bought a single family home in Memphis, Tennessee that cash flows for me. And so that was like my first model. It was like, okay, I knew I needed passive income and I knew this was a way to get it. So that's what I started doing. I thought I'll build my portfolio until I get all this passive income going. And since then, that's what I've done. I've built my skills, built my portfolio, and now I've developed places in LA. And now I've gone from single families to apartment complexes. And along the way, I have gone through tough times, right? I think that when anybody wants to change anything, it's all uncomfortable and there's learnings along the way. Like there's personal growth as well as professional growth. And there was one time that I was really beating my head against the wall, and I was like, where are all my girls? Like it's a male dominated industry. And I needed some women around me, and I invited a bunch of women to a brunch. They weren't all flippers like me. They were all different types of women. Some of them invested in storage units, some of them invested in notes. You know, they were all different. And we had brunch, and we ended up sharing things like not only our feelings about how we were balancing life and work and kids and the dog and our aging parents and everything else that we balance, but also about like, oh, you need a foundation guy. I have a foundation guy. You need an attorney that specializes in this. I have an attorney. Like we're women, we share, right? We share. And at the end of the brunch, I was thinking about doing this quarterly. And they're like, no, let's do it every other month. And so we started getting together, and I called us the Women's Real Estate Network. And we started getting together every other month. And there was inevitably wine involved. People were opening up their homes, and it was great. And then next thing you know, it started to blossom even more. And I think at one point I realized that there's this whole other group of women that didn't get access to these women that I had access to. So I started putting together a meetup, and that grew to 11 chapters really quickly. And then COVID hit, so we went all online. We're still going today. We're online, and then we're doing quarterly offline and in-person events now. But it's been a really great journey because I think as women in business we have different needs.
Yeah. So I have a lot of questions. Let's maybe back up to when you started. You had this period of reflection with via a tragic accident, uh, and you landed on a real estate strategy. I don't even know if you knew at the time that you picked a strategy to get passive income, although it wasn't that passive. But I guess I'm wondering, like, so you read books and you were doing a lot of research to understand and find your path for the goal that you wanted to pursue. Did you also like collect a tribe of people that could help you along the way and help to guide you? Like, where do I flip? How do I flip? How do I know, how much I can spend before I make a profit? Like, all those things are so nuanced and flipping. So did you have like a tribe to help you through that?
Um, yes and no. And I'll tell you this, and I think this is innately something that we do as women. We try to do things on our own, right? We try to carry all the burdens. And I I knew that I needed to change. I knew that the person that I wasn't going to get me to the place I wanted to go. And my brother, who was taking care of me during that year that I had to recover, had gone to all these Tony Robbins events. And he said, look, if you want to change, you might try this after you've recovered. And I did. And I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I've been to, all of his events. In fact, now I actually work for the man, believe it or not. I'm what's called a trainer. I'm one of about 220 of us worldwide, and he brings us out to the events to help other people get lasting change in their life. What it was is that I think that your skill sets and your mindset have to go hand in hand in the changing, because the person that you are might not be the person that you have to be to accomplish the goals that you wanted. I wanted some big goals. I wanted to be financially free. I want that streaming income that was coming in. In fact, and I'm going to say it because I don't think enough women share it. I have that streaming income coming in to be financially independent now, right? So, but I was dreaming it and hoping it was possible and meeting others along the way and gaining my skill sets and changing my mindsets all at the same time, right? Which is a lot. I joke with other women like, there is crying in real estate. That's where it's going to happen. And it does, and then, for me, that's a release. And then you kind of pick yourself up and dust yourself off and go, all right, what am I going to do tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I couldn't agree more around the mindset piece. There is for a long time, I was trying to rack my brain around why am I not reaching my full potential? And then I realized that the barrier was my mindset. And about a year, maybe less than a year ago, I started also doing coaching with Jason Drees, and it's been really phenomenal. And really asking yourself questions around, yeah, why can't I do this? Wait a minute, just because this person's doing it doesn't mean I can't do that, right?
Right.
And
And
I
I,
think as women, we typically have that line of thought subconsciously to say, oh, yeah, I could never do that. Or, maybe I'm not good enough. Like those types of like repetitive thoughts. What are your thoughts on that? Just like in
well,
terms
I
of,
have an actual real life situation around that. So, when pre-COVID, when we were still meeting in person, I went up to Seattle to check on our Seattle chapter, and there was a developer, a woman developer developing, and she was our speaker that evening, and got to hear her. And afterwards, I'm talking to her, and I said, you don't meet very many women developers. It's really cool to meet you. And she said, well, you're a rehabber, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, I used to be a rehabber. Development's so much easier. And I'm like, what? Like, and then we had this great conversation. And the fact of the matter is, I never saw myself as a developer until she let me see myself as a developer. There's no man that I've ever, developer that I've ever walked up to that has told me it's easier than rehabbing. And so I got back to LA and I was like, it started opening up my mind. And next thing you know, I'm meeting a woman who's a contractor and in construction, and we formed and we started a development company, right? I don't think I would have ever even seen that had this other woman not opened that up for me, right? And now we just had an event at REN. That's what it's called, the Women's Real Estate Network, REN. And it was called SOAR, and it was for women that have gone big. And I mean, these women, one of the women speaking has 5 hotels. The other woman has over 600 million in apartment complexes. The other women have 18 storage units. You don't hear about these women because they're not leading the forefront at the front of the rooms, and speaking everywhere, they're out there and they're doing their business, and I'm trying to highlight them so that other women know that this is possible for them, just like it was possible for me, right? And I think if we don't start looking around at those possibilities for ourselves, we don't even dream that it's available to us.
that's right. Yeah, I know. We just purchased a home and are getting ready to sell our current home, but everywhere I find, I try to find opportunities to hire because we're surrounded by vendors now, right? Like whether it be doing complete gut reno on the new house, we need a ton of vendors to do that, and then also to get our current house on the market, we need a bunch of vendors, and I always try to find opportunities that allow me to work and hire women, and highlight women and their work in this like real estate side of the house. So yeah, I totally agree. I don't think we hear about often enough, right? About stories about women being successful, and hence why you're here today, to highlight you and the wonderful work that you're doing. Um, I want to like dig in a little bit into the developer piece of your story because I find that fascinating, and I too, kind of like you're thinking years ago, that how does a woman become a developer? That tell us a little bit more and how that happened. I'd love to kind of understand.
Sure. Well, in that conversation with that other woman, she said, with flipping, and this is true, you inherit a lot of problems. I mean, you really don't know what the problems are within a house. I mean, you can get an inspection, you can get all kinds of stuff, but there are going to be issues that pop up and you're inheriting, and you just never know, right? And she said to me, developing is all on the front end. And it's true. When you're getting your plans, through permitting, when you're getting all the inspections done, when you're getting everything, the ground even ready for building, it's all on the front end, and then but once they start building, it's like they start building and it just goes up, and it's pretty quick and easy, to be honest. And I would never have thought that, you know and I think I'm good at paperwork, right? And I'm okay at communicating with people. When I started, I was flipping, lone wolf, lots of women, lone wolf, right? I was flipping, and then I was buying a single family, flipping and buying another single family. I was flipping in LA, buying in Memphis, Tennessee, right? So I was getting more cash flow. My money was going further in Memphis. Um, and then my debt to income ratio got crazy, and I couldn't buy anymore. And I'm like, okay, I'm not at my financial freedom number. What am I going to do? Right. And here's where I had to learn another valuable lesson. And that is this is a team sport, right? And I think I hear people say it. I knew it on some level, but I was so used to operating as a lone wolf. I didn't know it until I knew it. Like, oh, I can't do anything now. I'm going to have to partner with people. I'm going to have to try to figure out how to use other people's money. I'm going to have to do like it would like forced me into partnering and figuring that whole situation out, which is exploded my real estate abilities, right? And I feel like we as women, we tend to lone wolf it a lot. Oh, I'll do it. I can do it all. And we wear ourselves out. And I'm like, you know what? You could partner, and you could partner with other women who have similar values. I mean, make sure your values are aligned. And I know I've had a lot of partners, and some of them have been amazing and some of them not so great. So you've got to pick your partner wisely as well, right? But yeah, so along the way, I've had to learn different things. But the developing part was I heard that from her, and then I came back to Los Angeles, and it's like um it's like when you're shopping for a car, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I really like that, car, and then you start seeing that car everywhere. Like it was like that. Like, oh, somebody told me I could develop. And now I'm meeting people who are developing. And now I've met a woman who's a contractor who can do the build part and I can do the permit part, and we started forming a relationship, right? And talking about a business model and figuring out what we wanted to do. We ended up buying single family homes that were zoned for multi, knocking them down and building fourplexes. So, yeah, that's what we ended up doing, and it was great, and it's been profitable.
That's awesome. That's great. Um, Tell me a little bit more about how you approach partnerships. I'm at a point where I want to find a partner to build out a business, and I don't even actually know where to start.
Right. Yeah, I would say start with a list of values, you know, and, um, you know, it's interesting because I think that what I've learned along the way is that, we're attracted to people who are like us, right? And that's not necessarily the best business partner, because then you've got two people with the same skill set and no people with the other skill set, right? Like, I'm really good. I'm a great visionary person. I think that's why I'm great as a rehabber and a builder, because I can imagine something, and I have a really great team structure. I can really get people to the same end goal at the same time. But there's other things that are more detail oriented that I'm not great at. I think there's a book called Rocket Fuel, and it's an EOS system, right? And it talks about how your different skill sets and what it needs to you need to have um to really make your business flow well, right? And what I learned early on is that, like, my attraction to people who are like me are not necessarily the best business model, because we're two people in a pod, and it's like I'm a little yeah, let's do it. We can wing it or whatever. And I need somebody who's a little more like, hey, let's think about how that works in the long term, right? I need somebody who, like, is a little more grounded and a little more, like that. Um, but who is probably never going to be that part of me, right? So we balance each other really well. So my advice is get to know somebody, and I've tested out people in short term projects to figure out if a long term project is going to work, right? Because you know, having a partnership that lasts 4 to 6 months is different than having going into something that you think is going to last 3 to 5 years. Way different. And when you partner with somebody, I mean, you're going to learn about all their money idiosyncrasies. I mean, we're all funny with money. Don't get me wrong. I've got my funny money. You got your funny money. Like and we're all going to learn like what we want to spend on and what we don't want to spend on and how we go forward like that. And so finding a small project to be on together, is always like a great introduction to that person's values. I have a friend of mine, and she would not partner with people until she played the cash flow game with them. Learned so much about somebody at the cash flow game. And I've run cash flow games, like for years I've run cash flow games, and it's true. You do learn a lot about people. It's so funny because a lot of newbies would come to my cash flow game and they would hesitate to actually buy something, right? Which is basically their money ideology coming out on this board game, right? And I would go, buy something, it's not real. Paper money, it's okay. We can play like this. You know what I mean? But that was the whole point of cash flow. Is like you need if you want to partner, you can partner in that game if you're willing to lend and how you're willing to split deals up, right? It all comes out in that game. So it's a really interesting, paradigm. But yeah, you don't know somebody until you know somebody, right? Like I don't know. I think you're married, yes. I'm married. I just married my second husband, and we've been married for like 4.5, 5 years, right? And he just did something the other day that I thought, oh, that was curious. Now, it wasn't so out of character. It just caught my attention. But it was like, oh, we're still getting to know each other. I mean, if you think that a business partnership is much different, you're wrong. We call that marriage incorporation. That's what we call that.
Like that. I like that. I feel like you just have had such a awesome journey that kind of builds on each other, like on itself along the way. And to me, it just seems like um, you love growth and you want to pursue something bigger and different along the way. And you're not just happy in status quo. That's what it just seems like. And you're comfortable like making frequent pivots. And I want to tap into that a little bit because I think it takes a certain person and a certain mindset to be able to do that. Just curious, kind of what do you think has contributed to your success and this constant evolution of yourself and growth of yourself over the years?
Mm, um, okay, I'm old for one thing. I'll tell you. I feel like, you know, and I think this is true for a lot of people. There's many iterations of ourselves that we go through. There's many, I'm going to call them turning points, that we make. And I think one of the things that one of the things that I realized after I turned 50 was that um, this is who I am. I started embracing myself at a deeper level, right? And I am a woman with a fire in her belly. And I think that, a lot of us, whether whatever we're juggling, there's guilt, when I'm at work and not with my husband or my family, and there's guilt when I'm at my husband and my family and I'm not at work, and there can be a cycle of guilt and shame for women. And I've chosen at some point to release that and embrace who I am. And for the positives or the negatives, I try to balance all of me that way. And it's interesting because I feel like it's something that I'm still learning. and I just turned 59 last month. I know. Can you believe it? And I was watching because it's a nine. I don't know. I'm going through my own mind crap about it. And so I started Googling like other women who have done things later in life. And there's some amazing, remarkable things that some women have done. And I ended up like looking at a lot of Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin interviews. And Jane Fonda was in this interview and she said, I don't know, I don't really think I started owning myself until I turned 70. And I thought, what? What? You don't own yourself until you're 70? Like, I was owning myself at 50, but at the same time, I feel like, oh yeah, and look at them. Look at these vibrant women who own themselves. And I thought, that's who I am. Like that's what I want to be. And that's the fire in my belly. And I'm gonna honor that, and embrace that part of me, and I think that and having an influence to lead other women to embrace that part of them, to be able to dream and go, hey, you know what? If you want to do this, you can. Like, you want financial freedom? Go get it, girl. It's out there and you can. That also motivates me because it's been great to see women in our community just blossom and grow. The woman who spoke at our event in SOAR that owns 5 hotels, I met her when she had nothing. See that progression, and like to the point where I'm like, I can't keep up, like, but good on you. Like, yay, you know, go lead and go show other women what's possible, because I think that we can do that, and I think that we should do that, and I'm all about embracing our femininity along the way, and I think part of that is releasing the guilt and shame that comes with it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So,
yeah. I just love what you're doing with Ren, and kind of showing women the way and being supportive and empowering women to take that route. I really appreciate that. Thank you
yeah,
for
it's
doing that.
exciting.
I think we,
It's
we need
exciting.
so much more of that.
Yeah, it's exciting for me. I love being able to watch and see and, have some influence if I can too, so it's cool. So.
Yeah, awesome. And Ren just had an event last week. Tell us a little bit about the event and how it went.
REN has monthly online events since COVID, right? But we're trying to do quarterly in-person events. And so we just had an event in Phoenix, Arizona called REN Soars. And it's about the women that have dared to dream and think big. So one of the women, she's from Seattle, and I met her when she was self-managing I think it was a 16 unit and a 9 unit, and now she operates over 600,000, I'm sorry, 600 million in apartment complexes. And this other woman who operates, 5 hotels, and another 2 women who operate 17 storage units, and another woman who does industrial parks. It's about these women who have really exploded their businesses in big ways. And I think that sometimes I know in the past I've hesitated to think big,
Yeah.
you know, not see myself as that person, not afraid, afraid to take that leap.
Mhm.
And it's really encouraging to see other women who are not only doing it, but also being real and transparent about what it takes, and how they're doing it. And, you know, a lot of these women have children and families, and, you know, trying to juggle it all. I hesitate to ever use the word balance because I don't really believe in balance.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know what that is. um, but I have a real great respect for those that are daring to dream that big. You know,
Yeah.
I think because I'm a first generation American. My dad is Hispanic from Mexico. My mom is Irish, And I was kind of taught, keep your head down, work hard. Don't really look up, don't dream that big. You know what I mean? So I talk about mindset shifts for me. It's been a long journey, and a lot of different coaches, by the way.
Yes, I'm
To
right
help,
there with you.
get this up here going. And by the way, I still have coaches. Like, it's still a journey,
Yeah,
but I think, it's great to see other people who have traveled that road and are pursuing something and it feels accessible to me because they're wives and daughters and mothers too,
yeah, and you can relate for sure.
absolutely.
That's awesome. Um, wow, such a powerful story. I love it. Um, what's what's a piece of advice that you would give women, who want to dream big and want to get to some place where they can reach their full potential?
Yeah. Um, so a piece of advice that I learned in the Robbins organization is if you want to, you know, accelerate something. I mean, I had my car accident when I was 45, so having to lose everything financially and then start over again, I was like, I don't have time to mess around. you know? And I was told, get a mentor who's already doing what it is you want to do. And I highly suggest that, and any partnership or anybody who would take me on as a learning partner, I would try to over deliver all kinds of value to them. So that that was what I was bringing. I didn't have the experience. So I was just trying to bring more and more value in whatever it is they needed. And I would really highly recommend that. A few items: education, and trusting your intuition. Women have great intuition. Trust your intuition. And then I'm just going to go back to networking. You know, um, network with those that are doing what you want to do. Network with a supportive group. Find your tribe. Because it's those people that surround you that are really going to get you through some of the tough times, and they're going to be tough times. You know? So I think those are the three things I would point out specifically.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will not for a second believe that, you're going to stand still. So what's next for you, Deborah? What do you have in the hopper for the next 2 to 3 years? Tell us. Or you
Oh
don't.
God, you know what? It's so funny that you should ask that because I'm actually not sure what's next. I am, I had this big event that I threw last week. God, that was last week. And I'm in a couple flips right now, and I'm also restructuring on one of my multifamilies. I've got my hands full at the moment, and I was just talking to my husband. I'm like, there's a light at the end of this tunnel. And I'm going to have some break in the summer. And I'm going to take that time off to regroup. Um, I think that I get into a routine where I'm going, 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 and I really need to replenish
Mhm.
and revision what it is that is the next step for me. And so I'm going to take some time this summer to do that, and just step back a little bit and enjoy the fruits of my labor as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. Will I ever be out of real estate? No, probably not. I have a little story around that though, if we have time. Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay. So I was on a phone call. This was like, it's got to be like 5 or 7 years ago right now. And I was told that this woman, she was 87 and she was selling a 16 unit in Galveston, Texas. Now, I was told that her son kind of manages the unit, but so if I get to talk to her, don't ask her a lot of details about the units, but she was the one selling it. And so, I wanted to talk to her. So she got on the phone with me and, why are you selling it? Her husband was sick. They wanted to liquidate some assets. And, we started conversing. And then the next thing I know, we started talking about the units themselves. Well, she knew everything about the units. he was in regular contact with the manager. She knew which apartments, who was staying in, what was going on, blah 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 blah. We had this fabulous conversation, and I didn't end up getting the apartment complex, but I ended up hanging up the phone, going, "That's going to be me at 87." I'm still going to be like dealing and figuring out what I'm going to do with my next assets. So,
Yeah,
like, do I plan to stop? No, I'm addicted. I've got the real estate bug in a big way. You
yeah.
know, what my next moves are. I just recently bought a multi-unit in Puerto Rico with a couple partners, and we're
Ooh,
making it into a bed and breakfast, and that should be up and running by May, June, which might be where I take some of my downtime.
that's awfully coincidental there.
Good. That's the fun about real estate, right? Like,
Yeah, you can leverage
yeah,
it then for yourself.
take a little time out in Puerto Rico and sit in the tropical breeze and
Yeah,
enjoy my work there.
yeah. I'm sure that you will come out of that with so many new, fresh ideas.
I think so. I think so. I hope so.
I'm sure. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. Now, what's the best way to get in touch with you? How can listeners reach out to
Yeah.
you if they want to?
Thank you. If you're women and you want to connect with our network, our women's real estate network, it's REN, and everything is REN Inspires. So reninspires.com, REN Inspires on Facebook, REN Inspires on Instagram, REN Inspires on TikTok, REN Inspires on Twitter. It's REN Inspires. So just connect with us that way. If you're interested in getting in contact with me personally, you can go to deborahrazo.com. I'm available there. I have all my details up there, or you can schedule a 15-minute call with me, and I can help you if I can.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, we'll leave those in the show notes. And again, really appreciate your time, Deborah.
Thank
Uh,
you.
to many more successes for you
Thank
and
you, and to
anyone in
you.
touch.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate it too.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.